right, I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Do we have any citizens that would like to appear before? If not, all right, we'll move on to the next piece of business, and that will be to elect a chairman and a vice chairman. Do we have any nominations for chairman?
I'll make a motion to nominate my good friend here, Oak Ridge Wildcat, Commissioner Wells,
Guess I am the only one up here. Aren't I? We got the original right there.
the OG.
We'll do Vice Chairman Joy at the same time.
We can. Do we have any other nominations for chair?
I make a motion nominations cease and elect by acclamation.
Okay. Any opposed? All right, I'm on the chopping block. That's great.
Okay. I would like to nominate Shane Bowers as Vice Chair.
Second.
Okay. Any other nominations for vice?
I make a motion that the nominations cease and elect to acclamation.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any opposed? All right, that'll pass unanimous. Alrighty, I guess the next order of business, Mayor Frank, if you'd like to give us the update on American nuclear site status.
Sure. Well, first of all, order of business, congratulations, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations, Commissioner Val, on Vice Chairman. I am going to give the honor of the status update to the man who knows about the status of the American nuclear site. With us this evening, we have John LaCroix with TDEC. He is their External Affairs, is it Director? Director of External Affairs. And then Steve Sanders, who is the Director for the Division of Remediation for TDEC, which is Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. So Steve, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So I'm going to give a little bit of background. I was here, I don't know, we were here, myself and Deputy Commissioner Young, a year or so ago, talking about American nuclear. But I know we've got some new folks, so I'm going to give a little background and then give a status update where we are. So the American nuclear facility is located on Blockhouse Valley Road. It produced source material for medical use starting in the 60s through the 60s, 70s until they were finally basically closed down for improper handling, more or less, of the material. The state stepped in and took control of the property for public protection in the early 80s. And essentially the property has been fenced and regularly monitored since that time. There wasn't really, in the early days, of course, that was, what, 40 years ago, there wasn't, there wasn't an imminent use, so it was allowed to basically just sit, be monitored. It does not pose a risk outside of the property boundaries to the surrounding community. Part of why we are, a big reason why we're seeing some push on this, one, we understand the county has some interest in the property. Two, Governor Lee put forth a conservation initiative that was funded by the legislature a couple of years ago to address a number of brownfield properties across the state that had really just been sort of sitting, languishing without funding, without a path forward. American Nuclear is one of those properties. And so my division was entrusted with the funding to oversee the cleanup of these sites. As some of you know, we really got involved about a year or so ago, looking at the site, looking at what the possibilities were. So over the last 12 months, we have been engaged with EPA and having a conversation about the property. In that last 12 months, EPA's come out, they've done a couple of assessments, evaluated the property, and basically agreed to address the site as an emergency removal action. Now, what that means is that here in the last 2 weeks, we got approval from Washington, D.C. It got funded. EPA Region 4 is currently, and you're going to find we're light on details right now, heavy on good news. Good news is it got funded, okay? They've dedicated $13.5 million to the cleanup of the property. It's an emergency action removal, which means they are required by their laws, statutes, to start the work within 6 months. So they are in the process of finalizing an access agreement with the state for their contractors. They are going through the bid process to select the contractor that will be doing the work. And then that contractor will have to basically determine where that waste is going to go when it leaves the site. It is very likely at this point that it's going to leave the state and go to one of the radioactive landfills in the West. So, I will answer any questions that I can. That's sort of the quick rundown, with the great news being that EPA has funded it. They've started pulling it together, and they will be boots on the ground inside of 6 months to start the work. They estimate that they will be done within 18 months of starting. So as we sit here this evening, we should be roughly inside 24 months to having the property addressed, and frankly should be available for, they're going to clean it up, my understanding is, to an unlimited reuse status. So with that, I will take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I knew you'd have a question.
What made you think that, Steve? Thank you for the update. Got several questions, and it's certainly good news for sure. The funding, the $13.5 million, is it coming from RCRA, or how do you know?
It doesn't come from a program like that.
Okay.
They have certain funding, and so just to be clear, a portion of it's was funded. The fiscal year just ended, the federal fiscal year. It was funded, I think $4.8 million in 23.
Okay.
The remainder is going to be funded in 24. But each region has a budget that is available to their emergency response program, and that's essentially what it is. It's not a Superfund site, it's not a RCRA site, it's not a CERCLA site. It is truly for a site that doesn't necessarily fit in one of those buckets neatly. There's no PRP. It's it's frankly it's a site that the state likely doesn't have the resources, expertise, capacity to handle. And so each of the regions across the country has funding for that. And so that's how this is being funded.
If you don't mind, sure. I got a couple more questions. Thank you for that explanation, Steve. And then it's intriguing to me. Okay, so Tennessee is one of the few states that is allowed to I'll say, service or operate. EPA allows the state of Tennessee to have TDEC. EPA is not really required in the state of Tennessee. TDEC performs that function on behalf of EPA. Correct? Yeah,
we do have essentially, you might call it primacy, or they delegate certain authority to
right.
the state. That's correct.
So my question is, how I think I heard you say EPA is going to choose a contractor, I suppose, to clean this up. How will that work with EPA and TDEC? And so they'll choose the contractor and then let TDEC know, or Will you guys manage? I mean, how's that all gonna work?
We will not manage. This is truly a state federal cooperative action.
Okay,
EPA will be the lead agency. We will be participating, we will be involved, but they will be utilizing one of their contractors that's already approved for federal work. And they will, and I'm sure there's going to be, as we get closer to actually working, there'll be public availability, there'll be an information session, right?
Okay.
Typical of a federal cleanup. So that's why I said light on details. I'm just really here to let you guys know that what we committed to a year or so ago is really happening. We're not talking about it anymore.
this is heavy on detail as far as I'm concerned after 12, 13, 16 years. And first, let me preface my last comment by saying that I want to thank TDEC, and I know the mayor's been heavily involved ever since she's been in the administration, and I thank TDEC for your leadership in environmental stewardship of the property. I just want to make it very clear, there's been no environmental issues at the property. TDEC has done their job. They have monitored it, as you said, and it's encouraging to see the federal government get involved and help out with this cleanup, and I'm happy to hear that. Obviously, it doesn't take away from the state dollars, which are needed in other things. So, last question. The property, once it's cleaned up after 24 months roughly, will it come back to the county?
That is outside of my wheelhouse. That's not anything that I really have any authority over whatsoever. What I think, and this is a personal opinion, what I think is that it's probably an appropriate time, understanding that the cleanup is real, it's happening, it's got a timeline. I think it's probably an appropriate time to start having that conversation, both amongst the county and with the state as to what that looks like. I mean, that property being held by the state is held outside of TDEC authority,
Okay.
right?
I
So
follow you.
we can provide input, we can support the conversation, but that's really a conversation that's gonna have to happen, it's gonna have to happen with another group.
I know the mayor probably has some ideas and plans, but we have several 100 acres, I guess, over there that we'd like to develop at some point in terms of trails or whatever. The mayor, she's got some plans, I think, that she'd like to see happen. So it certainly would be a good fit to go in with the rest of it. So
Agreed, and I think now is, like I said, now's the time for that conversation to at least begin, because we do have a fairly firm timeline. It's no longer 4, 5, or 6 years. It should be about 24 months from where we are right now.
thank you for answering all the questions. I'd like to kick it over to my counterpart in District 1, Chairman Mays, and see if he has anything he'd like to add, questions or comments.
The last question you asked was the question I had written down, is the property, but you've answered it, so.
I knew it was coming, so I answered it the best I can right now.
You're giving me a complex, Steve.
No, I expected some
No.
questions, as I should.
This is great news. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, TDEC, for all you've done.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say thank you to this committee.
Yes,
for putting this together, the mayor as well, from TDEC, for everybody. I mean, this was genuine, where everybody worked together. They saw what the public needed, what the residents needed, and they all came together. Worked great. Thank you.
And I'm taking a little bit of the glory, but the commissioner and deputy commissioner certainly deserves some kudos as well,
Yes.
because they were pushing, they're the backbone
Never
behind
mind.
my push, put it that way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I do want to say just something really quick, is some that may not know, but just to what Commissioner Isbell said is, Commissioner Wandell and the mayor fighting this fight. I truly want everybody, if you don't know, try to find out how big of a deal this really is and appreciate the significance behind this, the news, and thank, these two and this committee and TDEC for something that I think some thought maybe never would have happened. And so I think this is some huge, huge news for Anderson County. So thank you all for keeping at it.
Thank you, Chairman.
And Mr. Chairman, it'd be amiss not to mention Catherine Denver.
Yeah.
Most definitely. All right, next point of business will be the TVA Bull Run Fossil Plant.
All right. Well, I don't know if we're on camera, so if, in case we are, I'm not gonna dance, but I am so darn
Oh, we're not on
excited
camera.
about this. I'm like, yeah. Oh, no, we've got the headphones on. Gotta thank the governor, of course, 'cause he picks good people.
Amen.
And Steve and Commissioner Young and Commissioner Sawyers, Steve and Greg, these guys just dug in on this. They went out to the site. I can honestly say their plan was hatched over banana pudding at the Apple Blossom. And I was just kind of listening. They had their whole team there. John, you were there. And they laid out a plan, and they worked it, and they never let go. And these men are just, we owe them. We've had this mess in our community for a very long time, and they've done a great job of maintaining it, fixing the fence when people crash through it, keeping it mowed, keeping it monitored. But this is huge for Anderson County, and really it's a story. I look forward to what's going to happen in the media. I've told them this could be a cold case to walk the community at large, and then even the nation through, you know, what you do in a situation like this. And I think there's going to be a lot of lessons learned here, and I'm just so darn proud to be in Anderson County and today, and to get to work with these fine men. So thank you so much. Yeah. I'm sure it's been a secret that's been burning your insides out till you could get here. On Bull Run, I just thought it would be wise for the Intergovernmental Committee to maybe put Bert Robinson's email in your minutes. I put that packet together. This impacts the Claxton community and also neighboring Oak Ridge. I also wanted this committee to know that both TDEC, Pat Flood apprised me of this water testing that would be going on in the Claxton community or in the surrounding area surrounding Bull Run. And also Bert and Scott Turnbow from TVA also wanted to apprise me, and I know that they also sent this email out. So for anyone at home, I'd say these letters are probably already hitting mailboxes. I don't know that yet, but what is happening is a water use survey and well sampling activity. This is to better understand the groundwater conditions surrounding the Bull Run fossil plant and determine if there are any impacts from the plant's operations. And so also included, it's a half-mile radius, but also included in your packet there is TDEC's order on CCR's coal combustion residuals. It gives you some understanding of what's going on there. And I just thought if there were any questions, we could reach out, or I could help you all get some information, but otherwise it might just be beneficial to, as you've been covering this and following it closely, maybe to just include it in our records, because I know we've got a lot in the records on Bull Run. So,
Any questions, comments for the mayor?
Yeah, Mayor, is there a specific time frame for this survey? I know they say in here a few weeks, but,
well, I think it depends on what they find. So the first step is they're gonna send this out in the form of a survey and try to find, you know, are there wells that we don't know about? That's kind of the first step. Then the next step is, once they do this inventory that's in the half-mile radius, then they will approach those homeowners, if it's a commercial enterprise or a residential, and ask permission to sample. And I don't know what the timeline is. John, do you know anything about a timeline on that while you're here? I know I'm throwing this on you, but.
I think the timeline to conduct the door-to-door survey, once the postcards get back to TVA, they identify the water, the actual wells that they need to go out and talk to the parcel owners, the property owners. That's going to be conducted October 23rd, the week of October 23rd.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions, comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mayor, for putting this in the agenda in the packet. I know many of us had conversations with Bert Robinson and Scott Turnbow, and I just want to encourage the folks in District 1 within that half-mile radius of the Bull Run Steam Plant, for those that have wells, when you get this information from TDEC, I would encourage all of them to participate. This is a way, to, as you already said, to make sure that there's been no issues or impacts from the ash over the years. The TVA is doing this at the request of TDEC. So it just helps the whole process if you would participate. From what I understand, you're not required to participate, but it certainly would be helpful for TDEC and TVA to have that participation. If you got any questions, feel free to reach out to the information in your card when you get it from TDEC. I guess it's coming from TVA, the card. So that'll be from TVA. If you got any questions, certainly reach out to myself and Commissioner Chairman Mays and the Mayor Frank if you got any, but I'm looking forward to this. And Mayor, do you have any other updates on Bull Run? Last I heard that they may even shut down before the end of the year.
I have not heard that. I know they're talking about, the last, they had the open comment period about the demolition. I do know just conversationally, they're talking about engaging on the next steps, like what for that particular site, what would the community like to see? So I know that's in process, but I don't, those conversations are in process. I don't know a timeline on that.
Okay. And I don't either.
Yeah.
I just kind of some discussion I heard, and I guess what I'd like to ask of TDEC, as they'll be involved obviously, but if the plant is to stop operation before the end of December 2023, I guess my concern is if work begins, not necessarily tearing the plant down, but work begins with the decommissioning of the operation, which would include, I'd say, lots of chemicals and things of that nature, fluids, and so I'd be very concerned with what that plan looks like, and I'd request that TDEC help us gain that knowledge so we have an understanding of what that process is going to look like. I'm not advocating that TVA is not going to share it with us, but I just feel more comfortable having TDEC involved and TVA and all of us to get that information, because we're what, October 10th or 12th, I can't remember what day it is, but we're getting pretty close to the end of the year, and I get questions all the time. What's going to happen when the plant shuts down? When they're going to tear it down? What are they going to do with the ash? What's going to happen here? What's going to happen there? And I think we're at a point where we should see some type of concrete plan that kind of gives us a timeline, projections, and I'd like to see that. And maybe there is one. I just haven't seen it yet. But
I could definitely follow up. I know there's still quite a bit of process left, so even this groundwater sampling or the well sampling process is all going to be part of the long-term, what happens at that site. So does the coal ash stay there? I mean, what does that plan, the long-term plan, look like? And so I think there's still a lot of work to be done on TVA's side and between TDEC and, what can happen. There's a lot of what people want to happen, but that may not line up with the regulatory processes and what's approved. So I think there's still even if they shut down, there's still a long way to go on some of those final decisions.
And I know you're on top of it, so I'm not worried. Thank you.
Well, I don't know about that, but I will try to get more of a, maybe an update memo, like exactly where they are in the process. I think I put in there, but it doesn't have specific dates, so there's, no, maybe I didn't put it in there. There is something on one of the websites. Oh, no, it's in the, from the TVA site, it talks about the commissioner's order, and it kind of walks you through. Right now, we're at the conducting investigative studies to gather required data. Then TVA submits, you know, certain plans and reports. We're kind of weaving through that process, but we can do a better job of getting for you where we are exactly, what those estimated dates are, and some information like that.
Mr. Chairman and Mayor, if it's all right, could we add this TDEC order for water use survey to our website and the TDEC order on coal combustion residues? Could we add it to our web page so people can find it if they want to look for it?
We can absolutely put that
I'll make
link on
that
there.
motion to add those two items to the Anderson County website.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
Dr. Smallridge, all in favor? Or any discussion, excuse me, on adding that to the website? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Any other questions or comments for the mayor on this piece of business? Okay, we'll move on. Old business, if there's any to be brought before us. If not, any new business? Okay, unless someone opposes, we'll go ahead and adjourn.
Good job, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.